Welcome friends, and we'll continue from where we had left earlier. Now after this work of Espedin which was done, he gave the name as Portland Cement. Then the work continued further and Espedin got a very good name because he had already patented this. People also knew that there is something called as Portland Cement, so the work continued on this. In 1828, I.K. Brunel is credited with the first engineering application of Portland cement, which was used to fill a breach in the Thames Tunnel. Now, in 1848, a very important discovery occurred. Now, in 1848, rather the work was started in 1844, I can say, Jean-Louis Lambert was the first to use reinforcing in concrete. Use reinforcement in concrete. He constructed several small rowboats or boats of concrete which he reinforced with iron bars and wire mesh. So notice over here, John Smeaton had done the cement earlier, then it was Joseph Espedin. Joseph Espedin gave the cement to the world. Experiments started working on the cement. I.K. Brunel used the cement further, and then we find that in 1844 or rather 1848, during that time, Jean-Louis Lambert creates a boat, and this boat is of concrete, and he has used reinforcement in concrete, and this experiment was successful. In 1854, William B. Wilkinson, an English plasterer, erected a small reinforced concrete two-story servant's cottage. He reinforced the concrete floor and roof with iron bars and wire rope. This is credited as the first reinforced concrete building. So you can imagine, during the Roman time, cement was used, there was no reinforcement, it died a natural death, and now we find that in 1844, 1848, 1854, there is something called as reinforced concrete building coming. In 1848, Jean-Louis Lambert gave us the first RCC structure, a small boat. Now in 1867, Joseph Monnier, a French gardener, patented a design for reinforced garden tubs. He later patented a design for reinforced concrete posts, that is vertical columns, and beams for railway and road guardrails. Let me take you back to 1848 when the first boat was done. Well, that the snap of the first boat, Lambert's original 1848 bateau. Bateau in French means boat. It is still there in the museum in France. He exhibited it in 1855. He patented his boat in 1855 also. Now, let me tell you a little brief about this boat. Lambert's bateau, as it is called as, Joseph Louis Lambert invented ferro cement, which got eventually developed into reinforced cement concrete or RCC. In 1841, he started constructing masonry water tanks and masonry troughs using cement mortar. As I told you, after the cement was made public, people were knowing about it, people were experimenting. So Lambert did masonry water tanks and masonry troughs using cement mortar. He also tried experimenting the use of iron reinforcement, most likely in the forms of iron rods, chicken wire mesh, and so on. Then he constructed his first boat using the same system. What he has told Joseph Louis Lambert is there over here. What he says is, my invention shows a new product which helps to replace timber where it is endangered by wetness, as in wood flooring, water containers, plant pots, etc. The new substance consists of a metal net of wire or sticks which are connected to form like a flexible woven mat. I give this net a form which looks in the best possible way similar to the articles I want to create. Then I put in hydraulic cement or similar bitumen, tar or mix to fill up the joints. I remember yesterday I had mentioned to you all, why are we using RCC? Why could we not use any other material? Why not wood? Well, man first lived in caves, no doubt about that. After that, man has used wood. But the question is wood durable? Whenever man wants to build houses or build structures, he looks at these aspects. One of those things are, how easy is it to construct, how safe it is to live, how fast can I construct it, and the most important question after economy is it durable? Now, when we look at any other material, most of the materials, they don't survive all these questions. Either they are safe, or they are not durable, or they are uneconomical. Now, all these advantages we found in RCC, and that is exactly what Lambert mentioned with pride. He said, my invention shows a new product which helps to replace timber where it is endangered by wetness. And this particular product was a good one. This product, which started as ferrocement, took birth as ferrocement, later on went on to become RCC, which we understand today. Continuing with the brief journey of concrete, we find that in 1903, the first skyscraper was built in the US, anywhere in the world. First skyscraper was built in the US. This was a 16-story Ingalls building which is still standing till date. Now, soon after this particular structure was built, people started looking at RCC as the material of the future. Let me tell you about this Ingalls building. Well, this Ingalls building was not accepted by people just by the look of it. What must have gone in people's mind when RCC was told to them that we are going to use RCC, we are going to use concrete for a skyscraper? Do you think people must have accepted it? This 16-story building was a great achievement at the time, and its success led to the acceptance of concrete construction in high-rise buildings. But prior to this, the highest building was only a 6-story building. Since concrete is weak in tension, people felt that a concrete skyscraper as huge as this one would collapse within no time because of the wind loads and maybe under its own weight. But ironically, when the building was finished and the supports, that is the formwork, everything was removed, it is said that one reporter stayed awake the whole night to be the first one to report the building's collapse. Engineer Hooper designed a monolithic concrete box. All this is a monolithic concrete box only of 200 mm, that is 20 centimeters only thick walls. The framing, all of plain concrete beams, columns, stairs, floors and roof. It consisted just the bars, some reinforcement was embedded in it and just interlaced. The amount of concrete which was used in this was 76 meter cube each in the 10-hour shift. This building occupies 15 meters by 30 meters at its base, and it is 64-meter high. Well, this building stood the test of time and it still stands. This was one of those buildings which has made us rich. This building has given us good dimensions to go ahead with the skyscrapers. Continuing further, in the US, later they built a massive concrete structure, that is the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is a dam in Black Canyon on the Colorado River. It was constructed somewhere around 1933, that is in between 1930 and 1936, and it is the highest concrete arch dam in the United States. Now, this Hoover Dam is a massive concrete arch gravity dam. It is thick at the bottom. Let me tell you, it is very thick at the bottom. It is about 200 meters and very thin at the top, just 14 meters thick, and presents a convex space on the water side above the dam. On the water side, it is convex. The curving arch of the dam transmits a force of water on the abutments, which are rocks or the rock walls of the canyon. Huge amount of concrete, that is 24 lakh 80,000 cubic meters of concrete, almost 25 lakh cubic meters of concrete has been used in this dam. There was one problem in constructing this dam. If the dam was to be built in one single continuous pour, there would have been problem of heating, because we all know that concrete gives heat during the reaction, during the hardening. This heating would have been uneven. This would have presented problems of uneven contraction, would have given serious cracking problems. Plus, the calculations showed that it would take 125 years for this concrete, which is used for the dam, to cool down. So, what was done is that for its construction, the ground where the dam would come up was marked with rectangles, and the concrete blocks were poured in columns, each column of 15 meters square in plan by 1.5 meter high. Each of the formwork contained a set of 25 steel pipes, allowing cool water to be poured into them, followed by ice cold water. Only after the individual block had cured and had stopped shrinking, the steel pipes were grouted. Grouting was also done to remove, or to fill rather, the hairline cracks between the columns. So building a Hoover Dam was not easy. It posed its own problems, especially because of heating. In 1917, the National Bureau of Standards was built, and the American Society for Testing Material also was done. It was done, which established a standard formula how the Portland cement should be. The journey goes further. In 1948, we see the invent of pre-stressed concrete. First time it was invented, and it was used for airport pavements. Then comes the next milestone. In 1967, the Opera House in Sydney, Australia, the construction began. Its distinctive concrete peaks quickly became the symbol for the city. The Opera House was beautiful, and rather it is even now very beautiful. 1970s, fiber reinforced concrete was introduced. That is, fiber reinforcement was introduced in concrete. The 1990s, just about 20 years back, 20, 30 years back, 311 South Wacker Drive in 2 Prudential Plaza in Chicago, they set a new world record, height record of 920 feet. This was broken 6 years later by Petronas Twin Towers, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, with a record height of 1,476 feet. Now, all this done in concrete. It took its birth long back, and then people went on experimenting. Now, that's the Opera House in Sydney. It was architect Hudson's Opera House design, and it was considered a sculpture. It was graced with series of sails symbolizing the thousands of yachts that sailing Sydney harbour's waterways, and also that its shape could be interpreted as huge seashells. Well, it's beautiful, but do you know that it created its own problems in construction? This facility, that is the Sydney Opera House, multi-venue theatrical center at Sydney Harbour, with series of large precast concrete panels in the shape of shells, each composed of section of a sphere of 75.2-meter radius, covering the roof of the structure. Let me tell you, it had its own problems. The architect had presented the plans but had not consulted the engineer. The plans were approved, and when these plans were given to the engineer, they looked at the plans and they said, "This does not fit. The curve on one side of the shell was not meeting with the curve on the other side. A gap was getting created at the junction line between the two shells." So the architect gave an option. He said, "Why not do them with pre-stressing. If you do with pre-stressing, the sections are going to be thin and the weight is going to be less. You can connect easily. But the pre-stressing created their own problems because after pre-stressing, the deformation occurs and the lines were not joined. They had to do for the curves about 12 to 13 iterations, and yet the shape was changing from a parabola to ellipse. Finally, the engineer who was working on this got a brilliant idea. Like how we have a football with pentagons cut and they are joining perfectly with touching side to side with one another. He thought, why not cut the triangle from the sphere itself? Because if we cut from the sphere, its line has to exactly match. Perfect. We fitted the calculation and then precast concrete panels were done. The sphere radius was 75.2 meters and these concrete panels were erected over there, and that's how we got this opera house in Sydney. The dream of the architect was made a reality by the engineer. In order to put the formwork for this one, let me tell you, the engineer had to work with hand, no computers during that time, and he had to do 30,000 mathematical equations. And the accuracy which he achieved in the formwork was about 1.5 centimeters. So good it was. Now coming to the 1990s, where I told you about the 311 South Wacker Drive and the two Prudential Plaza in Chicago, then the Petronas Tower and Burj Khalifa, which we see in 2010. Now, as far as the 311 South Wacker Drive, Chicago is concerned, I have already informed you. It was the It is the tallest skyscraper, about 969 feet tall. Up to the 51st floor, the tower is designed to be trapezoidal in plan, and then after the 51st floor, it becomes octagonal in plan. All alternate solutions were checked before arriving to reinforced concrete as the construction material for this building. They wanted to use lightweight material, but lightweight material was giving problem towards the wind load. So they tried steel frame. Steel frame, they had other problems of fabrication and the other things. High costs were there as far as fabrication is concerned. Plus construction time would have been more. So finally they zeroed down to reinforced concrete. Now high strength concrete was used over here in this with super plasticizers. To place the concrete, just one high pressure pump was used with special boom. The building core, the core of the building rested on 8-foot thick concrete mat that was supported by 92-foot long caissons socketed into bedrock. The tower columns are also supported by similar caissons. This was one of the tallest reinforced concrete building in the world.